Hello and welcome again to learn the TOEFL the easy way with Teacher Fish. So this is the second part of our video about how you'd increase your chances of getting a perfect score in independent writing task. We will focus on the content aspect of your score, and the things you must avoid. Let us start our discussion with the second variable of your score, which is content. Content by definition is the ideas that you write in your essay, and how you develop them. However, simply putting your thoughts into writing might not be enough, especially if they aren't sequenced well. And so the first thing about content is unity. Unity is when each paragraph has only one main idea, and that all other sentences and details in that paragraph revolve around that main idea. Unity is important because it aids the reader in following along with the writer's ideas. The reader can expect that a given paragraph will deal only with one main topic when a new paragraph begins. Now, aside from transitions, this also signals that the writer is moving on to a new topic. Here is a sample paragraph. Another benefit of learning English is that it can offer the chance to move to an English-speaking country. Often, to become a citizen in a country where the mother tongue is English, one must achieve a certain level of proficiency. For example, when I moved to the United States 5 years ago, one of the requirements was to take the TOEFL. Thanks to my English skills, I was able to get a score that was more than enough to earn citizenship. Consequently, because I studied English before moving to a new place, I am now living in a country where I am treated as a local. The first sentence of the paragraph contains the main idea. Notice that all the succeeding sentences talk about the same idea, which is the chance to move to an English-speaking country. In addition, the supporting sentences are well organized or sequenced. As you can see, it started with an explanation, followed by an example, then an illustration, and the closing statement. This is what unity is all about. Next is coherence. Coherence in an essay means that the readers can easily understand it. Coherence is about making everything flow smoothly. Readers should see that everything is logically arranged and connected, and relevance to the central focus of the essay is maintained throughout. Actually, coherence involves two aspects: cohesion and unity. Cohesion relates to the link between sentences within a paragraph, and the link between paragraphs themselves. As with unity, well, we just learned about it, so I guess you understand what it is. Now, there are at least 4 cohesive devices in the English language that can help improve your writing. They are pronoun reference. We talked about this on the first part of this 2-part video. Parallel terms are synonyms. This, as you may remember, is our word substitutes. Next we have transitions, another topic that we focused on in part 1. And finally, the use of similar grammatical structures, or uniformity of verb tenses. These devices carry meaning within a sentence, and from a previous sentence into the next. They allow the reader to follow from one part of the text to another, and to understand the logical relationships between sentences and paragraphs. Here is our sample paragraph again. Let us try to check for cohesive devices. Another benefit of learning English is that it can offer the chance to move to an English-speaking country. Often, to become a citizen in a country where the native tongue is English, one must achieve a certain level of proficiency. For example, when I moved to the United States 5 years ago, one of the requirements was to take the TOEFL. Thanks to my English skills, I was able to get a score that was more than enough to earn a citizenship. Consequently, because I studied English before moving to a new place, I am now living in a country where I am treated as a local. In the first sentence, notice that the pronoun it refers to learning English, which is obviously a noun phrase. So it is the first cohesive device used in the paragraph. Instead of using the same noun again and again, replace them with pronouns. However, take special care when doing so. The pronoun must be as close as possible to the noun which it refers, or the reference will be unclear. Next is the repeat of a key term in succeeding sentences, but with the use of synonyms or related expressions. As what we did with the word English-speaking country. In the succeeding sentence, notice that it was replaced with the phrase, country where the native tongue is English. But again, be careful when using word replacements. Be sure the substitute you use fits the context, and that the original word and word replacement do not vary in meaning. Moving on to our next cohesive device, the use of transitions. At the beginning of the paragraph, we have the word another, which links the paragraph with the previous one, and for the part where an experience was shared, we use the expression, for example. We also have the transition, consequently, to mark the end of the paragraph. As what we learned when we discussed about vocabulary, transitions act as bridges between what has been read and what will be read. Without them, paragraphs will be disjointed and even hard to follow. And so, the last cohesive device is the use of similar grammatical forms or uniformity of verbs. Ideally, parallelism is observed among sentences. It is when we occasionally use sentences with the same structure, to show that sentences are related to each other. However, in an entire paragraph, parallelism also includes the use of verb tenses. As in our sample paragraph, notice that in most parts, the verbs are in the present tense. Of course, with the exception of the ones that were assisted by time markers. Now, before we proceed to the last part of our discussion, the things to avoid, let us first have a recap of the content aspect of your essay. To ensure that your essay is in top quality, remember to observe two things. First is unity, when all the sentences talk about the same main idea. Second is coherence, when you make all the sentences easy to understand, and flow smoothly. Remember also our cohesive devices, and how you'd use them in paragraphs. Moving on, the points that we are going to discuss next are things that you should avoid when writing an essay. As a personal take, a good paragraph is comprised of 5 to 6 sentences. Anything that goes beyond it may expose you to what I call bloated paragraph. It is when the writer becomes repetitive, with sentences that convey similar or the same ideas. In effect, it bores the readers and may even deem your essay as weak. So to combat the issue, be sure not to repeat the same idea. If after rereading the paragraph, you realize that a sentence has no additional value, it should be erased. Here is a part of a paragraph where the idea is bloated. Having knowledge of the English language provides an individual many job opportunities. In other words, there will be many job opportunities for someone who has knowledge of the English language. Notice again that the two sentences have the same meaning. Isn't it that there is no need for either of them to be repeated? Isn't it that you can just write one of them? So this is what a bloated paragraph means. And this is one of the things you have to avoid. Another issue that you have to avoid is redundancy. To a certain degree, it is similar to a bloated paragraph. It is when you use more words than necessary to express something, in effect repeated idea. However, as similar with bloated paragraph it may seem, redundancy often occurs within sentences. As much as we want to be flowery with our words and expressions, sometimes we overlook the possibility of writing redundant sentences. Here are some samples of redundant expressions. Large in size. While it looks correct, but isn't it large is already talking about size. Here is another one. Basic fundamental. Aren't they the same? While in a speaking situation, these expressions may be okay, since they add flavor or artistry on the way you talk. Remember, writing is a different ballgame. Not to mention that the issue of redundancy also affects your word choice, a vocabulary aspect of your score. The next thing that you should be watchful of is run-on sentences. By definition, it is a sentence that is made up of two independent clauses that are not joined correctly. There are two ways to troubleshoot this type of error. Either you make your sentence into two separate ones, or you can make use of a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Here is an example. My test is on Saturday, I have to prepare for it. Seems correct, but it is a run-on sentence because, as you can see, there are actually two independent clauses in the sentence. So a better way of writing the sentence is, my test is on Saturday. I have to prepare for it. Or, my test is on Saturday, so I have to prepare for it. Lastly, avoid writing irrelevant sentences. Irrelevant sentences are sentences that do not support the main idea of a paragraph. These are sentences that may disrupt the unity and coherence of an essay. We again have the tendency of committing this error, especially at times where we want to add information, such as an additional fact or an additional example. So, how do we solve the issue? No way to better avoid it, but to be always mindful of your main idea or topic sentence. Always keep in mind your topic and controlling idea. For example, if in my paragraph I wrote, one reason learning the English language is advantageous is it opens many career opportunities. It gives the job seeker the lead over others, especially in a company that does business in and outside of the country, because he can easily communicate with foreign partners. In addition, top colleges and universities abroad prefer students who are well versed in speaking the English language. The last sentence obviously is irrelevant because, while it talks about the topic, which is a benefit of learning English, it is not in tune with our controlling idea, more career opportunities. So before we end, let us again have a recap of what you have to avoid when writing your essay. They are bloated paragraphs, redundancy, run-on sentences, and irrelevant sentences. We have again reached the end of our video about how you'd earn a perfect, or at least a high score on the independent writing task of the TOEFL. Practice the things that we discussed in both parts 1 and 2, and I guarantee a significant jump on your score. For other TOEFL lesson videos and practices, please visit my channel. The name is again TeacherFish1019, without space. Also for comments, suggestions, or feedback, leave them on the comment section, and I will do my best to answer them as fast as I can. Lastly, please do not forget to press like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, so that you'd be informed every time I upload a new lesson or practice. And always remember, the TOEFL is not difficult, if you know what to do. With that, see you on the next episode of Learn the TOEFL the Easy Way with Teacher Fish.